Okay, we are back. Gonna give this another go. Just don't know what's happening tonight. All sorts of problems. There we go. Sorry about that. Just having some technical difficulties on our side. Don't even know what this is all about. But back to the racing. It's lap 11 of 36. Madwell leads the way. 6.8 seconds is the gap down to his teammate. So crucially, he's been able to extend that teammate, that gap to his teammate. And surely that's really as a result of Ulrich. Ulrich is just making Afro's life very difficult. He wants to be in clean air. He wants to make progress. He wants to get up the road, up as close as he can to his teammate. But Ulrich will not get out of his mirrors. Number 84. That is a number I share, and actually for the same reason. Afro has broken that 7 seconds down to 6.9. Every time he gets a bit of clean air, he begins to close it, and then every time Ulrich engages, that gap goes back up. Speaking of engaging, Ulrich opens up DRS, goes around the outside, and easily into turn 1 ahead, retakes second place. And every time this happens, just lets Madwell stay out front, lets him maintain that gap. Louis, still the only driver in the field to have a penalty. We mentioned that penalty earlier on in the race. And now he's picked up 2. Madwell leads the way. P2 is Ulrich. Not going exactly according to plan for Afro. He would have liked to have left the Alfa Romeo way behind, but now he's still challenging. Madwell leads from Ulrich. Afro P3, Fricky further down, P4, still has hopes of a podium. Pantry Star, yes, and left P5, has he? Let me just have a look. Oh wow, now yeah, there we go. Oh, he's made up 1 position. He started in P6. Ultra Gamer P6, Andre P7, Mr. Rem. He was making up ground at a stage. But now in 8th place. Remember, it's about those soft tyres. They're going to give you the advantage in the early stages of the race. But as this race goes on, that advantage will begin to fall away. And we've missed the biggest incident of the race so far. What happened to Madwell? Madwell has fallen to P3. He had a 7-second gap. He's lost the entire 7-second gap, and he's just behind his teammate. wish I knew what happened there. Madwell, if you're watching, you can't tell me right now, but if you come into the pits, whatever the case may be, or if anybody's watching and they know, let me know what happened there. Madwell losing the lead in what was a very promising position. He was using those softs to his advantage and then lost all of that benefit in just a matter of corners. Now Madwell down to P3, follows his teammate. These two cars in very different positions. They may be P2, P3 on the track, but Afro, set of hards, Madwell, set of softs. Same age on those compounds. Very different compounds. They're going to have very different strategies. Takeaway, 3-second time penalty. The penalty is starting to grow now on the right hand side of your screen. We had a league race here on Friday night, and penalties definitely played a part in that final driver lineup. We also had a safety car very late on in the race. So if you had piled on the penalties, it was a painful experience at the end of the race when the checkered flag fell. This is your new leader, Ulrich. Spent most of this race fighting for P2, falling back into P3, fighting back into P2, and suddenly he's been handed P1. Revolution has retired from the session, so we have a DNF. Madwell has come into the pits and emerged from the pits in P9. This is lap 15 of 36. Is he going to try go to the end, or is he going to jump on a set of softs right at the end? Love to know what the plan is there. Only he knows. Would love to know if the plan was manipulated or changed as a result of him losing all that time. Ulrich, set of mediums, driver behind him, set of hards. Afro should be able to go longer. And for the time being, Ulrich doing everything he needs to do because he's holding on to that Alfa Romeo. He's not letting it get too far up the road. And he is on the harder compound. So Ulrich should hold advantage over him at this point. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Fricky in a podium position, P3, yet to pit. Let's actually just bring up your stop screen so you can have a look. There you can see top 14 drivers. First driver to pit, Madwell, P8. Everyone else here in the field, everyone else that has pit is at the back of the field. Virus, Harsh, Cartoon, Visor. Everyone in that top 7 yet to pit, and as I say that, the pit lane starting to get a little busier. Ulrich still leads the way, and Afro has not given up on this in any way, shape or form. He is still there, just half a second behind his nearest rival. with two Alfa Romeos on very different sides of the spectrum. Visor in P18, and his teammate has just dived into the pits, relinquishing the lead to the Red Bull, to the man who started in pole and leads this race for the first time on lap 18. That's not a stat you'd like to know before the race if you were starting on pole. First time you're going to take the lead, it's lap 18. That sounds terrible. Didn't have the pace of his teammate early on, couldn't stay with his teammate. But he made sure he stayed with Ultra Gamer, stayed with P2, didn't let P2 run away. And it was going to be a race between him and his teammate to the end. But that mistake came. Madwell had to change things up, came into the pits early. Now he's up into P5. On what will be a bit of a recovery drive. Remember, his position is really not as bad as it seems. If we have a look at the gap from your leader down to Madwell, who's just made up another position, he's up into P4. That gap is 22.8 seconds. Now, a pit stop around here is going to cost you between 22 to 25 seconds. So, Madwell is going to come back into this race in a big way. Ulrich P2, Madwell P3, but Afro, he's going to stay out the longest. He's going to have the longest run. He's got 18 lap old hards, as does Andre, as does Dixie Killer, as does Chums. Those four drivers obviously on the same strategy, but in very different positions. This man here leads by 18 seconds, but it's not going to be enough to retain the lead if he were to pit now. How much longer does he stay out? Does he have the pace to increase the gap? If he doesn't have the pace to increase the gap, he needs to pit. He doesn't pit, chooses to stay out for another lap. That gap, 18.2 seconds. If it falls below 18 seconds, I think we'll see him dive into the pits. Madwell, P3, should have the superior tyre to the two cars in front of him. He's on the medium. But something tells me he's going to have to pit again. I think Afro definitely on a one-stop strategy, but I think Madwell will definitely have to pit again. I stand to be corrected. But if he does manage to do 20, he could very well do 21 laps on the medium. It is possible. Louis just did 19 laps on the medium. He's just got rid of that set and got onto a set of hards. But which is actually an awfully strange strategy by Louis. I'd like to ask him about that strategy. Started on a set of mediums, did 19 laps on that set of mediums. And then he's going to have a much shorter distance of the race on a set of hards. I think he meant to finish on the softs. Further down the field, these two Haas drivers, they've been close together for most of the race. Pantry Star still in P5, having a race of his own for the time being. No one in reaching distance. Fricky just falling off the podium because those two Red Bulls have taken their positions back. Alfa Romeo, Ulrich, still in P2, but he's in such a strong position. Look at that gap. That gap has come down at 16.3 seconds. I said he'd won a pit. If the gap fell below 18 seconds rather, it has fallen below 18. It's 16.2. How much longer does he wait? Not much longer. He dives into the pits. Afro goes into the pits. That gap was 16 seconds, and surely Ulrich will take the lead of this race. Where is Afro? He's on his way. His mechanics have sent him on his way. He's on his way down the road, and Ulrich takes the lead of the race as the Red Bull emerges. His teammate will pass him as well. And your new top three, Ulrich, and he's going to be followed by two Red Bulls. Looking for battles on track. We have these two over here, not too far away from each other, the two Haas drivers, but they've been driving along in single file. Then much of the same for the two Ferrari drivers, just 0.8 of a second separate the two. They drive along in single file on what appears to be very similar strategies, literally one lap apart to avoid the double stack. Then we have more line astern. Two Williams. Except these two are nowhere near each other. Then Weiser, the second Alfa Romeo. B17. Louis. Make it Weiser 16, Louis 17, and Atmagosi making up the field. As for the front, no changes. Ulrich. Madwell coming under pressure from his teammate. Will he defend? Will he let him go? Decides not to defend. Afro. Both of those Red Bulls, they're on a set of mediums. But Afro has 7 laps superior lifespan. So between those two cars, Afro should have the superior pace on the rubber alone. And I think they knew that if one car was clearly faster than the other, they needed to swap positions, because surely their first target needs to be to beat and to dethrone Ulrich. For Alfa Romeo, just up the road, 1.4 seconds is the gap. Afro has just set the fastest sector 2 of the race. I think his intentions are clear. As I say that, fastest lap of the race, a 1:18.3. His intentions are clear. That gap's coming down 1.1 seconds. Hasn't been able to shake off his teammate just yet. Madwell will be in a difficult position, knows his teammates racing for the win. They're both racing for the win. But he'll know he's got that handicap of 9-lap-old mediums. And conservation of those mediums will have to come into play at some time, because if he does want to turn this into a one-stop, which I think he can, those tyres are going to be very, very slippery towards the end of their run. And at that point, he could find himself falling down the field or even falling off the tarmac. I think you can see now he's just dropped off the back of Afro a little bit. 1.3 seconds is the gap between the teammates. And Afro right on the back of Ulrich, surely down the main straight now with DRS. There's not going to be much that the Alfa Romeo can do. And remember, Madwell in P3, he can try take as much advantage of this as he possibly can when these two engage in battle. Afro decides, not this lap, not this time round. Maybe Ulrich just had too much ERS left in him, and I think that was the case, because now you can see it's gone. It's all gone. So I think he drained everything he had trying to defend that position, and now surely Afro, as soon as he gets a DRS zone again, it's going to be a slam dunk. Madwell P3 staying as close as he can, knowing that when these two engage, it's going to be very much in this race. Afro may seem slightly impatient, but he needs to be impatient. He needs to get by. He needs to make that advantage on the mediums count. Ulrich can go longer into this race. Those tyres are going, well, lap 36 is as far as you can go. But at lap 36, Ulrich is going to have a tyre that feels a lot more comfortable than the guys on the mediums. So needs to get past, wants to get past, doesn't want to stay there much longer. And still, resilience from the Alfa Romeo. And the Red Bulls almost swap position. And Madwell takes his P3 back. Amazing defense from the Alfa Romeo driver. Survived the DRS straight here in Mexico for 2 laps in a row. I'm not actually quite sure how you do that. Saving his battery in all the right places and using it in all the right places. Into turn 1 on the last lap, his battery was on 2%. And like I say, he knows how to just get it charged in all the right areas. That he's got just enough to get down that straight, but will he be able to repeat the feat? Hey, that rhymes. Yet again, on lap 26 of 36. Surely now when Afro opens up DRS, there will be no question. The gap is only 0.3 of a second at the start of the DRS. Alfa Romeo moves aggressively to the inside to defend. And again, what is in the back of that Alfa Romeo? The Red Bull just can't get past the Ferrari powered Alfa Romeo. See later on tonight we have the Mexican Grand Prix, Ferrari starting 1 and 2. I know turn 1 and turn 2 can be quite complicated, so I'm just hoping we don't get a Merc situation at Ferrari a little later on tonight. For the time being, top 3 remain exactly the same. Ulrich, Afro, contact. Madwell tries to get out of the way, and well, there was contact in the stadium section and we got to see it. Maybe not the best camera angle, but surely it was going to happen. These two racing around together so close for so long. They both stay out, so no damage. Surely now, ooh, and just a little bit of aggression there from Afro. Just a little, hey, what was that in the stadium section as he goes past. Either it was an internet connection thing or he just had just the slightest turn into the Alfa Romeo just to be like letting him know that he was there. Afro takes the lead of the race, lap 28 of 36. Now he's got some clean air. And now he can try and get as far up the road as possible. Madwell did make a pit stop. Wonder if he got damage as a result of that incident. He wasn't far behind, but he has made a pit stop. Wonder if he didn't have a set of softs left over. Used all of them in qualifying, means he's going to have to finish the race on a new set of mediums. Some of the gaps in front of him are pretty big and not a lot of penalties ahead of him. So he's going to have to do a lot of this work on his own. Fast, consistent lap times till the end, as he's been doing all race long. The job isn't over yet. Afro running away with it now. 1.7 seconds is the gap. Ulrich P2, Fricky. Third step of the podium, seems a world away. 10 seconds down the road from the top two. Then Ultra Gamer, P4, and Pantry Star separating the two horse drivers in P5. Car to watch. Second Red Bull, Madbull. Very, very quick first stint of the race. Really looked like, to me, like he was going to win it. Had a 7.5 second lead. And then a mistake off screen which we did not see. Means that when we saw him again, he was in third place, had lost that entire margin that he had made up. And really put him rather on the back foot. Surely that had to change his strategy. Madwell now, that's not going to help. That's not going to help in your pursuit up the field. He picks up a 3-second time penalty. So now, not only does he need to pass cars that are in front of him, he needs to build a 3-second gap to those cars in order to maintain the position he just got. Madwell, fastest lap of the race. Beats his teammate's previous fastest lap of the race. Now chases Pantry Star down the road. He's going to be in DRS next time around, crucially. Then he needs to get past that Aston Martin and build a 3-second gap if he wants to hold on to it. And he does get past the Aston Martin of Pantry Star. Pantry Star down into P6. Madbull back into the top 5. But remember, he does have penalties, as does the car ahead of him, Ultra Gamer. Let's just bring up your penalty screen so we can have an idea before the end of the race of who's on what. Louis, the biggest collector of penalties on the evening. He's got 9 seconds. Then we've got 6 seconds apiece for Takeaway and Van, the two Ferrari drivers. And then we have 3 seconds apiece, and this is quite the list. Visor, Virus, Andre, Ultra Gamer, Madwell, and Afro. I think that's why Afro is also getting the move on. He has to get the move on. He's got that 3-second gap. If those mediums begin to fall off at the end, and he's searching for lap times, that 3-second penalty could be a big disadvantage to him. Needs to extend that gap as much as he can while he can. Louis picks up another penalty. I believe that's going to take him up to 12 for the evening. Madwell, P4 now. Making up positions at an absolute rate or not, and he's not done for now. He can still smell the podium. He can see the podium. Fricky 3 seconds ahead of him. And he'll know that despite all his troubles and all his misfortunes, he could still get himself up on the podium. And I think that's going to be motivation enough for him to give it absolutely everything in the 4 laps that remain. Afro leads and that gap continues to grow. Van continues to grow the penalty column. Another track infringement penalty. We know here in Mexico there's so many places, and it's not always necessarily corner cutting. That's what you think of when you think of track limits, is people cutting corners. It's just running wide on the exit of the corner. Sometimes you need a little bit more time before you can jump on the power, and you just run that little bit wide, go over the curb a little too much. And once you start getting penalties every other lap, it just feels like you're going backwards. You could have 3 amazing laps in a row, be a second a lap faster than anyone. If you get a penalty at the end of that 3rd lap, well, you've made no advantage at all. When people think of racing, people think of going fast, finishing in P1, and that is obviously one of the things you want to do in the race, but more importantly, you need to finish the race. And I think the penalties column, just as important. You want to finish the race and you want to minimize those penalties to absolute 0. If the penalties column costs you a race win, you will never forgive yourself. So it's really just something a lot of the guys have to work into their practice, just staying within those track lines. Even if it means giving a little bit of lap time. You may think, I don't want to give up lap time, I need to go as fast as I can. But if you get 9 seconds worth of penalties by the end of the race, you could have given up a little bit of lap time. Madwell has caught up to Fricky and surpassed him. Now needs to build up a 3-second gap so he can hold on to the podium position. Remember, Fricky, no penalties. Our drivers are back together yet again, 5th and 6th. Almost said top performing Ferrari engines of the night, but that is Ulrich P2. As for the Ferraris, Van has just DNF'd. Just a caution, no safety cars on the evening. Very surprising. Not like what we saw on Friday night. Could be of one of 2 reasons. Either somebody left the safety car off, or the guys are having some really good drives around this circuit. Atmagozi far behind. I wonder, is that car ghosting? Maybe it ghosted at an earlier point. It's almost 2 minutes adrift from the car in front of him. There we go, just confirmation. Atmagozi is ghosting. That's why that car is so slow. Atmagozi no longer in control of that car. Tell you who is in control of his car and in control of this race, as he was in qualifying. Afro leads the way, lost that position into turn 1, got swamped, went down to P4, didn't lose his head, didn't try and get those positions back too quickly, just followed the queue, followed the guys around, knew he was starting on the hard, knew he wanted to take those hards as deep into the race as possible. Taking life out of them in the first 5 laps just was not worthwhile. At one point looked like his teammate was going to win it. Just going to have to throw the white flag to his teammate. But when the mistake came, he was right there to pick up the pieces. This driver here, he hasn't gotten enough of the broadcast time. He's done a great job. Had a bit of a lonely race. P4, Fricky. Stayed within that top 5 throughout the race. Hasn't been able to keep up with the top 3 though. But he's just maintained that track position, maintained that pace. And made sure he made that position his own. His teammate out the points, Virus. P13. And now we ride with the leader in the closing stages of the race. No battles on track to show you. Everybody's got a decent gap to the car behind them. So we'll ride with Afro. He's got an 11-second gap. That means he doesn't need to worry about any penalties. You can hear the fireworks in the background. Afro over the line for the victory and the pole position. Madwell, he's actually passed Ulrich, but that penalty is going to come into play, or will it come into play? I think he's just got him. Does Ulrich have damage? Oh, I think he's been disconnected right at the end of the session. And this is going to be a Red Bull 1-2. Right at the end. Ghost car taking over for Ulrich and getting the car over the line. But in the process, lost the position right at the end. Andre over the line. Pantry Star over the line. A few guys ghosting over the line. I wonder if there was a problem with the lobby at the end there. Top Gun. We wait for Top Gun as he goes through the stadium section. He's going to finish the race in P9. And Harsh Cartoon makes up those points paying positions with P10. Takeaway. Got in late. Good result at the end. P11 Dixie Killer. Just going to wait for the official results. So many penalties on our screen. Everything switching up and down. What a race it was, and what a switch it was at the end there for Ulrich. So disappointing. Just lost control of the car right at the end. Ghost car was able to get him over in third, but he'll be disappointed with that. Madbull, your driver of the day. Started in P2, had a very eventful race. And managed to finish in P2. Just gonna skip the podium so we can try and get through all these names in time. Afro, your pole sitter, your race winner. But he wasn't able to take the fastest lap. That went to his teammate who finished in P2. That's right, Red Bull 1-2. Madbull took the fastest lap. That was an 18.3, just 0.04 of a second faster than Afro's time. Ulrich P3, very unfortunate at the end there. Then Fricky P4, Mr. Rem P5, Ultra Gamer P6, Pantry Star P7, Andre P8, Top Gun P9, Harsh Cartoon squeezing himself into the points. Then we've got Takeaway in P11, Dixie Killer 12, Virus 13, Chums 14, Louis 15, Visor 15, and making up your field, but he was ghosting at the end. Magosi 17, retiring from this race. 1 Ferrari, 1 AlphaTauri, Van, and Revolution. And that is your Mexico City Grand Prix. Season 5, Round 4 here in Mexico. I have to apologize from my side. We had some really annoying technical difficulties. Had to restart the stream twice. But for those of you who did watch, for those of you who will watch this later, I want to thank you all for joining. I want to thank you for liking the video. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're on our way to 100 subscribers. We'll be back next week, hopefully minus the technical difficulties. See you then. Cheers, guys.